Welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. I'm Brittany Ford, a content creator, holistic nutritionist, biohacker, and new mom. And I'm on a mission to basically redefine what it means to live healthy, balanced, and empowered, especially as a woman and especially as a mom, to be honest. And this is a place where I get to sit down with different types of people, pick their brains and learn from them. And we talk all about everything health and wellness, from cutting edge science to natural living. Every episode is designed to help you thrive. So welcome if you are new, and happy new year. I am thrilled to be back here recording, doing interviews, and being back on the mic after taking some well-deserved rest and taking some time off, which I think a lot of us actually need to do more of. I had a bit of a wild Christmas. Everyone got sick in my family, like every single member. We had a stomach flu that just went between members. And so my house went through it because everybody was visiting, and it was just one person after another. It was super contagious. And I don't know who started it. To be honest, I had it first, and then Callahan, and then my husband, and then it went to like my brothers, my parents, and my in-laws, and it just kind of like went through everybody, and it was pretty vicious. One of those like 24, 48-hour bugs that, makes you vomit and diarrhea, and just like fever flushes you out completely. So yeah, it was interesting. And it was the first time my son, who's almost 6 months old, was like that sick. He had a little cold about a month ago, but it's the first time he was like burning up, and the first time I've seen him ever be that sick. And it was definitely interesting and hard to deal with, to be honest. So I didn't give him any Tylenol. I know a lot of people love to recommend Tylenol to reduce a fever, and obviously there's a time and place for it, especially for a high fever. His fever wasn't even remotely close to that. He was burning up. He wasn't even really technically in fever zone. He was just slightly below it. So there was no need for any type of intervention like that. And actually, speaking of Tylenol, which is acetaminophen, Tylenol is the brand name. I'm having Genexa come on my podcast. So Genexa is a cleaner product, which is got acetaminophen in it for a lot of their baby products and their kids products, but it doesn't have any of the crazy flavoring, additives, preservatives that Tylenol has. So I just learned recently about this brand, and I have a couple of their products on hand if we ever need it. And they're coming on the show, and I'm so excited to actually talk to them about, oh my gosh, like everything. Why did you create this product? What do you think? Why do you think it's needed? Everything like that. So that's coming later this year. I'm really excited about, and that's actually a really big brand. They're in Whole Foods in the States. I saw them. And in Canada, you can get on iherb.com or .ca, which is where I get a lot of my healthier products now. If I don't have access to them, iHerb typically does have access to them. So that's just kind of a little preview of what is coming. There's a lot of great content and a lot of great guests coming this year. Today's episode is obviously in line with that. I have Christina Walsh joining me, and we talk all about pelvic floor health and breastfeeding ergonomics. This is the kind of episode that I wish that I had listened to within my first 6 weeks postpartum or towards the end of my pregnancy. I went through a phase of really bad shoulder and back pain when I was breastfeeding in the beginning. And I wish I had thought about ergonomics more and my posture and everything like that. So this episode is great for all of the new mamas, or if you have a new baby. And it's really great if you're breastfeeding at all. I think there's a lot of healthy and helpful tips in this one. And we also talk about a variety of other, solutions and practical solutions for nursing moms. And we talk about pelvic floor health. So I get into, Kegels, and she talks about why she avoids Kegels and these internal devices that you can get. We also talk about like pee leakage and the urgency to pee postpartum and what you can do about that and the reality of that for so many women. It's definitely packed with a lot of insights and information, and I think you are going to get a lot out of it. Before we dive in, I just want to say that I am going to the Health Optimization Summit in Austin in April. So I know a bunch of you are going and are asking me if I'm going. So I am going. I haven't booked my flights yet because we're actually thinking about adding on a vacation before or after. Right now, we're looking at going to Belize. So I might go to Belize for a week and a bit, and then go to Austin right after. And I will be there with my husband, Brian, and my baby, Callahan, and they are obviously coming to the conference as well. And I really suggest you look into going if you are thinking about going to any type of health conference this year. You want to be surrounded by people who are inspiring and make you healthier and motivate you. This is a great one to go to. This is the first time the Health Optimization Summit is actually coming to the US. Usually it's based in the UK. So it's a really big deal. And they have a great lineup of speakers. So some of the speakers they have is like Gary Brecka, who's awesome, Elisa Vitti, Mark Sisson, Dr. Amy Kalin, Ben Greenfield will be there, Max Lagovier, I don't even know how to say his name. Dr. Josh Axe is there, who's going to be great, Davina Taylor, Tim Gray. So a bunch of other people. And yeah, I think it's going to be really great to go to. And I am really excited about it. I might organize some sort of female women's biohacker meetup, maybe a mom meetup. We'll see. A couple of you kind of mentioned that to me in my DMs on Instagram, and I think that is actually a great idea. So definitely check it out. And the price right now is actually really great. So the tickets are on sale. If you do just the regular ticket, the tickets are on sale for $249. Which is their early bird, like golden early bird ticket price. The full price is $399. So right now you would get it for $249. And if you use my link or my discount code, which is Biohacking Brittany in all capitals, you get another 10% off. So I was actually just looking at this because I wanted to make sure that the sale was compounded, it was a sale on a sale. And it is. So instead of $249, you actually pay $224. And that is so cheap. That is so cheap. So I definitely recommend that. Now, there is the VIP. And I will tell you that I will be doing the VIP. So if you are going and you're thinking, hey, I want to do everything. Like I want to go to the VIP dinners. I want to connect with the elite community. I want to be at the VIP lounge. I want to hang out with Brittany and her husband, and maybe not my husband. You want to hang out with me. This is where I'll be. I'll also be around, but I am going to do the VIP. And so the VIP is on sale for $9.99. Full price is $14.99. If you use my discount code, you get it for $8.99. So you get 10% off on top of that. So again, early bird with my discount is $224, and early bird with VIP with my discount is $8.99. So whatever, up to you, whatever you want to do. I really recommend you go. I will be there. The dates, I should have probably said that first, is April 12th to April 13th. So it's just 2 days. It's in a weekend. It's in Austin. They partnered with, I think it's the JW Marriott Hotel there. That's where I will be staying. So if you are looking for a hotel, you can stay there. And yeah, I hope to kind of see some of you there. I think that would be really, really great. I think the price of this like early bird sale is actually ending pretty soon. So I would hop on it if you can. And if you are going, please send me a message on Instagram and let me know, because I would love to connect with you there. And maybe I can kind of get a list of people together, maybe some phone numbers, maybe a WhatsApp group or something like that. And we can kind of get the ball rolling on maybe a little like coffee date vibe. I don't know. Maybe not coffee. Maybe coffee. Maybe like a cold plunge. I don't know. Something like that would be really, really fun. And a shout out to Wellness. I love Wellness. They actually are sending me more toothpaste, which is amazing because I'm running out. This is the only toothpaste I use in this household. It is super, super clean. It doesn't have any additives, preservatives, harsh sugars. sweeteners, any of that gunk in there for your teeth. It also doesn't have any fluoride. I haven't used fluoride in my teeth for a long time. I'm always opting for a healthier option. And this is one of the cleanest toothpastes I've ever seen on the market. When you look at I don't know if you ever look at them, but there are Instagram accounts that kind of compare the healthiest brands. And when it comes to toothpaste, when they do a comparison, Wellness is always one of the top ranking cleanest brands that you can get. So that is spelled Wellnesse, Wellness, I guess is how you say it. And it's Katie Wells, who's Wellness Mama. It's her whole company and her products. So love them, love her, love everything she stands for. Really suggest you check this out. Use my link, use my discount code, Brittany. I think it's just Brittany in capitals, and it will get you 12% off all of their products, all their self-care products, which is awesome. They have hair care, body care, face care, toothpaste, deodorant, etc., etc., etc. So enjoy this podcast episode. Again, message me if you are going to be in Austin in April. I will see you there. And please subscribe, rate, leave a review. Everything that you do really makes a difference for this show. I put out episodes every 2 weeks. I put out episodes twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and that will continue this year. Enjoy this, and thank you for listening. I will catch you soon for another episode. Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. Thank you for joining me today. We are diving into a very relevant topic in my life right now, and for many of my listeners, which is breastfeeding. But we are actually looking at breastfeeding ergonomics and pelvic floor health with Christina Walsh, who is the co-founder of Your Tinkler, which is a hilarious name. And I love that. Christina is a physical therapist helping moms prevent and heal issues like prolapse and diastasis recti without Kegels or internal devices. So I'm so curious about this. I have a million questions already, but we're going to talk about posture, how to avoid pain and injury, and really just simple tips for moms during this postpartum period. So Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brittany. I'm a fan of your podcast, and I can't wait to talk about all this and just empower all your listeners with action steps that they can take to take better care of their bodies, because that's what we're all here and we want to learn how to do. And it can be surprisingly simple sometimes. And that's the message of hope that I hope to bring and that you all leave with. And by the way, the name of our company was all thanks to a client, because Jen and I are nerdy clinicians and we couldn't have come up with that. But we asked somebody we worked with to help us out. And she said, you know what, that's perfect because it gets to the point and it's not crass or ugly, but it lets everyone know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. It's really cute. It's great. So I want to know, as I always start my episodes, how did you get to this point of specializing in pelvic floor health for postpartum moms and breastfeeding? Kind of take us through your journey where you were like, hey, this is an important topic. We need to talk about this.
You're like so many of your guests. And like when we are passion driven in our work, it's usually because it's personal. And that story is the same for us. And mine started with twists and turns I could have never anticipated, like many of ours, right? I was out of physical therapy school and just didn't find the passion for what I was doing that I expected to find in my early career. And little did I know, my first gift of direction in my career came as an injury. I didn't see it as a gift at the time. I had a lot of work to do around that, but it was a whiplash injury. And that led me to specialized body work called craniosacral therapy first. And you're like, what does that have to do with pelvic floor health? Nothing just yet. But then, and so I thought, I found my passion. This is it. This is the work for me. And I still maintain my body work practice because I love that work so much. But that gifted me the opportunity to encounter Miss Jen Lormond, who is now my business partner in Your Tinkler. She was seeking care after her third birth and had quite a series of challenging and traumatic births and was looking to heal and ended up on my table, and platonic sparks flew. We were just so aligned and connected energetically. And she was like, I already work with moms. I'm a personal trainer and this is already my passion. And you need to come join me at my personal training gym. Every mom I work with needs this body work. I was like, okay. And we just did it. And we worked as separate businesses under the same roof, taking care of moms for several years. And then I had a couple of kids. My birth experiences were very different from hers. They were midwife assisted much less medical intervention. Thank goodness I was very blessed in that. They weren't both perfect, but which birth is? We only get to plan so much, right? So I ended up with 2+ hours of pushing on my first because I had a sunny side up, or that OP, the head is the suboptimal orientation, despite having, again, the doula, the midwife, no medical intervention. So, we only get so much, there's only so much we get to control, right? And that experience. And what I didn't know at that time was that over 2 hours of pushing, it statistically put me at risk for pelvic floor issues and prolapse later on down the line. And I did find myself with dysfunction. And then unfortunately, I had an induction for number 2 because of a random spike in blood pressure at like kind of the last hour. And that was a whole nother experience because then I was on a magnesium drip. And then, I had to be on the monitors, and it was not what I had hoped, but I blessedly got through that one with, again, the help of my midwife and my doula and my husband. But I was also left, like much with Jen after her traumatic births, in a very different way. She was left with a lot of pelvic floor dysfunction and prolapse. I was left with issues too. And we had 5 very different birth experiences between us. And we went to try to get better and heal ourselves. She was already working with moms. She got referred for major pelvic reconstructive surgery and was like, I am not taking that path. And I was like, girl, I'm with you. Let's find a better way than what's out there. We had tried the Kegels. We had tried whatever anyone, could come up with and refer us to and what we could find. And it wasn't working for us. And so we went in search of a better way. And we wanted to biohack our pelvic floors. And blessedly, we are, gifted determination as well as that professional background that allowed us to find a new and better way. So we did. And then we had the harebrained idea that we would test it with medical research because we're nerds for what we do. And we were like, this is going to be our big splash in the world. We're going to do a university research study. We're going to get the data. We're going to put this out there for all women. And we did. It was an uphill battle. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but we did it. And it was so worth it because the data was even better than we hoped it would be. It was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. And we thought that was it. We're like, oh, brush our hands. All right, now back to our clinic. And then the women in our research kept coming back and they were like, please make videos of this. Like, I need to refer everyone I know to this new approach. And we listened to those women, and that is where Tighten Your Tinkler was born.
Are you ready to supercharge your health and meet the leaders in wellness and biohacking? Join me at the Health Optimization Summit USA in 2025 in Austin, Texas. This event brings together the world's top health experts, scientists, and innovators to share the latest strategies for optimizing your mind, body, and longevity. Here's what you can expect. Cutting-edge talks on everything from functional medicine to biohacking breakthroughs, hands-on workshops to help you implement life-changing health strategies, a vibrant community of like-minded health enthusiasts all coming together to grow and thrive. It is on April 12th and 13th of this year, and it is in Austin, Texas for the first time. And because you're a listener of Biohacking with Brittany, I've got an exclusive deal just for you. You can use my discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off regular and VIP tickets. That's an additional 10% off if you buy right now at the early bird price. That's right. It's a sale on top of a sale. So grab your tickets now at hosummit.com/Brittany and take advantage of this limited time offer. Let's biohack our way to better health together. See you in Austin. If you end up going, which I hope you do, please send me a message on Instagram. There's a chance I'm going to put a little get together for all of us listeners over there. And I would love to meet you in person. And again, you can grab your tickets now at hosummit.com/Brittany, and it will give you 10% off of everything and an additional 10% off the current sale that is happening for their early bird sale right now. Wow. I love that. That's such a beautiful journey. And it's just really cool to see how much of your personal experience for both of you really has impacted your work. And like you said, like that is actually accurate for a lot of people in the health space. I want to dive into the pelvic floor first. And obviously this is your area of expertise. And I did pelvic floor physiotherapy during pregnancy, and I've just started doing it post-pregnancy in this postpartum period. So, you know, as somebody who's very aware of like holistic therapies and like ways to heal the body, it was mandatory for me to do this the way that I saw it. But I still have many, many friends who don't do any pelvic floor work during pregnancy or after whatsoever. They don't even really know about it. So can you kind of describe it and kind of just shed light on why you think it's actually so important that women kind of bring this in during that time?
I think it's incredibly important. And I love what you brought up already, that you're seeing someone in person for this care. And that is so phenomenal and wonderful. And I think where Jen and I can fit in for women as far as what we're offering through our protocol and program is that what we hear from women all the time is that, you know, maybe they don't have access to a specialist who can provide that type of care just geographically, or they don't have childcare and they can't get there. So while we can offer an online option that is non-invasive and that works, it's wonderful. I love that you already brought up the gift that there are options now for women to heal this area and to take care of this area. And it is so important because we only get one body, right? Like if we don't take care of it, we encounter so many women much later on down the road, you know, when perimenopause and then postmenopause gets there, those hormone changes do not help the pelvic floor. And many women find us then because they didn't take care of things earlier. They brushed it under the rug. They thought, well, my mom had this, well, my friend has this, so I can't make time to deal with this now. It'll probably just get better on its own. And they didn't take action earlier on in their journey. And then they're finding things are getting worse later. It's not getting better. And then they're thinking, I wish someone would have told me. Why did no one tell me that this was so important? I would have done this. I wish I could have done that. So it's incredibly important because it's the foundation of your body. And energetically, it is our center as women, right? It's your center of gravity from a biomechanics and physics standpoint, but it's also the foundation of your body from the ground up. And it's your center of gravity. It's your energetic foundation and center. And if you feel broken there, and I am speaking from personal experience and I may get emotional, if you feel broken there, it impacts your sense of well-being and wholeness in ways you don't often realize until you start to heal. And that weight comes off and you think, oh, wow, I didn't realize what this was doing to me. So it is incredibly important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have a friend actually who said that exact same thing of, wow, I had no idea that this was something that I should be doing. And she was experiencing, I'm forgetting the medical term, like listen to my mom brain here, basically pee leaks.
Yeah, that's
yes.
all you need to say.
Yes. Yeah. And so she was saying now she's pregnant with her second, that she wished she had known that pelvic floor physiotherapy was a thing that people went and did in person or even online. But like, she just had no idea that, oh, I can strengthen my pelvic floor. Oh, it's a muscle. Oh, she had no idea. Even like when I describe it to people now and try to explain like, hey, this is a muscle. So you want the muscle to be strong, but you don't want it to be tight. Just like you don't want your hamstrings to be tight, but you want them to be strong, right? And so just trying to like explain it in a way that can like, yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around it because obviously you can't really see it, right? It's internal. So it can be confusing for a lot of people.
Girl, you are preaching all the good words right there. I mean, this is exactly what we talk about all the time and what we educate on. And so you're giving excellent guidance to your friends already right there. And yeah, this is a piece that, and so some women don't know that there's help out there. Some women are scared to bring it up to a provider. And so they don't know where to turn. Some women bring it up to a friend or even a medical provider who tells them this is normal. I mean, the stories under our YouTube teaching videos are hard to imagine because so many women are unfortunately dismissed and shamed even by medical providers. And I know this is not happening everywhere, but it happens enough that we hear all the stories. So, you know, please know if you find yourself with the kind of issues we're going to talk about now or later on down the road, I don't care who tells you it's normal or you just have to live with it. That is not true. There is help. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like that distinction, right? There's a difference between common and normal. Common is like this commonly occurs in society, but normal is this idea of like, oh, it happens to the average person, so it's going to happen to you. And it's like, no, there's Those are two separate, different things. Like, let's not confuse those. So when we're talking about the pelvic floor, and obviously you've worked with so many different women, what are some of the common mistakes that you see moms make that can negatively impact the pelvic floor?
Oh man, I think one of the biggest ones is ignoring the signs that your body is trying to give you that something is wrong and needs care. And I think that happens out of fear. It is a very most intimate part of our body. And as you said, it is just a sling of muscles. It doesn't have to be frightening. It is an important sling of muscles that holds our guts in. But one of the most important things women can do, and that we see women not doing, and I think, again, it comes often from fear or from not knowing, is just ignoring the signs that their body's trying to give them that something's not right down there, and kind of pushing through that. And what you're doing when you're pushing through that is making it worse over the long term.
And what do you think those signs and symptoms are?
Yes, the array is vast, because our pelvic floor does not function in isolation, just like any muscle, right? It functions in coordination when things are well and healthy. The pelvic floor functions in coordination with the deep abdominals, the outer hip muscles, the lower back muscles. So symptoms of core or pelvic floor dysfunction can present in any of those areas. They are all connected. Okay. So it can be the things we think about right away, like pee leaks with laughing, coughing, sneezing, jumping. It can be the gotta go now leaks, like, oh my gosh, I had to go. And if there's not a bathroom 5 seconds from me, I'm not going to make it. It can be pee frequency. So peeing more than 10 times a day is a sign that something's not well with your pelvic floor. Getting up at night to pee. Also, this blows women's minds. This is something that can be fixed quite easily, and you do not have to live with this. And then pressure or heaviness, like that feeling. And I have had this, and I can tell you it is terribly disconcerting. It feels like that kind of that end stage of pregnancy, only you're not pregnant. Like, is something going to fall out down there? And it is a panic inducing feeling. So if you've felt that, it's not something you have to live with. That is a sign of something not well down there, and that can be made better with the right steps. That feeling of a bulge. Some women describe it differently. Pressure, heaviness, the bulge. That diastasis, where the abdominals are separated down the middle. Our bodies are designed to do that to accommodate pregnancy. But if it doesn't close back together, you might need some support to get those deep abdominals functioning again well for you. And then low back and hip tightness or pain can be a part of this picture. Women will come to us and they'll say, we're stoic, we're moms, right? They're like, no, my back doesn't hurt. Yeah. But I do feel like I'm constantly stretching it, and they're pulling their arm, they're leaning, or really, my back doesn't hurt. But, actually my hips wake me up at night because they're so tight. Or you feel like your hip flexors are doing all the work for your abs that they're supposed to be doing. This is all a part of that same picture. And certainly the last but not least, anytime you're having pain with sex, that is another sign something's not well down there. And all of this, many women are going to be listening to this like going, okay, I check 3 of those boxes. Not all of them. Nobody's checking all of them, I hope. But, how this presents for women is very unique to their bodies and is very individual. So you might have heard your story in a couple of those items, but that is your body saying, if you experience any of that stuff, that's your body saying, something's not well down there. Please give me some care.
Right, right. So if a woman is listening to this and she's having one or more of the symptoms that you said, and I've had a couple of them before, so I can definitely relate. Where do you start? Like, what can we actually do about it? Like you mentioned the, urgency to pee in the middle of the night, and you can actually change that. How do you actually change it in a way that's sustainable?
I love this. Okay. So there are so many little things. I love one of your recent guests talked about, like, let's start with the low hanging fruit, right? So, but if you're like, I'm not ready to get to a pelvic floor therapist, or I can't, or like, I'd love to do your program and fix all this, but I can't take on that one more thing right now from a large, task standpoint. There are so many little tweaks and adjustments you can make to start moving that needle in the right direction, like now. And some of this stuff will sound familiar from other interviews that you've done, because it's just general good health advice. But what you can know as you're taking these steps is, I am taking care of my pelvic floor with each one of these action steps. Number one, let's talk about from the realm of potty habits. Okay. every time we're using the bathroom, that's involving our pelvic floor, right? It's whether it's peeing or pooping. And so number one, get yourself a squatty potty around every toilet if you don't have one already, because you get yourself in that ergonomic emptying position. It makes things more peaceful and passive. Make sure you are not pushing your pee out. So many busy moms are like, I'm going to shave off a few seconds, like, get it all out. What that actually causes is retention in the bladder of urine, which increases your chances of going back to the bathroom again sooner, getting up at night to pee, and actually increases your chances of urinary tract infections from the pee sitting in there. So peeing should be passive, really relax the pelvic floor. That could mean gently exhaling as you pee, even rocking back and forth, just to kind of let the bladder have a clear passage, because things sometimes aren't where they used to be after we had kids. And that's part of what causes all this. You can exhale, have your feet up on your squatty potty, whether that's peeing or pooping, gently breathe out. You can hum in a low tone to help relax your pelvic floor because your diaphragms are all connected. So there's so many special, simple little hacks you can use. And another thing is fiber and hydration, right? That has to do with potty habits and being kind to your pelvic floor, because if you've got really firm or really loose bowel movements, that is not a gift to your pelvic floor. So you want to optimize fiber and hydration, use that squatty potty, gently exhale, relax to let it all out, emptying completely, and sway back and forth if you need to. That's just the first set of tips. And that is easy and accessible for everyone. And it matters. Think how many times a day we're visiting the bathroom. So next, this goes back to what I talked about earlier, listening to your body, whether it has to do with what you're wearing. So if you're wearing things that are really tight around your middle and are leaving an imprint by the end of the day, those things may also not be doing any favors for your pelvic floor because it's causing downward pressure. Like if you squeeze around your middle, the pressure goes somewhere. And if we're already a little weak down in the pelvic floor, it's going to go there. It's going to find the weakest link and the pressure is going to go down. So if you notice, if you're wearing either compressive garments or even sometimes workout pants or even underwear can do this. If you're noticing after you wear something for a while, or certainly any heeled shoes are not a gift to your pelvic floor, back, or hips. But if you notice after you wear something a while that any of those issues we talked about are just a little bit worse, it is not in your head. And you can choose to size up, make a different selection. And that is another easy way to be kind to your core and pelvic floor, on top of listening to your body when it comes to movements and exercise. A lot of women get in the habit of just pushing through this stuff when it's exacerbated or made worse by exercises that they're doing. That is, I would vote not the right choice. Do not ignore this stuff or push through it, because what you're doing, your body is trying to wave a white flag and be like, I am not ready for this right now. Your body's not necessarily saying never. It's saying, please not right now. Please be gentler for me right now. I'm not ready for this when that's happening. So that is something simple you can do to take care of your body and your pelvic floor, is just listen to those cues.
Toothpaste. We all need it and use it daily. But have you ever read the ingredients of your toothpaste or noticed the FDA poison warning on there? If not, keep on listening for some surprising information that your dentist might not be sharing with you. Fluoride has long been a common ingredient in many commercial toothpastes, hailed for its ability to prevent cavities. However, recent studies have raised concerns about the potential health risks associated with fluoride exposure. These risks include thyroid dysfunction, dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, and potential neurotoxicity. Given these concerns, Wellness offers a safer alternative that doesn't compromise our health, yet remains effective. Why choose Wellness toothpaste? It is founded by Wellness Mama Katie Wells, and Wellness is dedicated to natural health and uses hydroxyapatite instead of fluoride, a game changer in oral care. Here's why it is a better choice. It's fluoride free, eliminating all the health risks that I just talked about. The natural hydroxyapatite formula strengthens enamel and whitens your teeth. Plus, it's crafted from natural ingredients, gentle on gums, and eco-friendly. I love it. I use it all the time. I love the taste of it. And I don't think I will switch to anything else. So make the switch for yourself today to Wellness toothpaste. Visit wellness.com and use code biohackingbrittany for 12% off your order. That's wellness spelled WELLNESSE.com. Safeguard your health with wellness because your smile deserves the best. I love that. I also find it very interesting that you aren't the biggest fan of Kegels and internal devices. So when I was pregnant, like I said, I was seeing a pelvic floor physiotherapist, and she recommended this device. It was like a wand almost. It was like an S, like looked like a snake. And now I'm forgetting all the terminology here, but essentially I would use it and my partner would use it as well to like press up and around and all the different places internally and breathe through it, learn to like inhale, exhale with that, like get used to the pressure. Like if I was finding any tight spots using that wand. And I thought it was actually pretty great. Like I found it very effective and it really did help prep me for birth. So what's your thought on like devices like that?
This is so perfect. I love that you're bringing all this up because these are exactly the issues that women come to us with. And, you know, what we want for all women is to find the path to relief that works for them, you know? And so if that means that Kegels and devices have been an effective solution, or you're interested in trying them, by all means, like you have to turn to what feels aligned for you, your values, what's accessible to you. But what Jen and I find is that the women who do come and end up working with us and really feel connected to our message are women who have tried those things and they didn't work, or they are victims of either birth trauma or sexual trauma. And that idea alone causes, you know, an absolute panic. And so for women in those situations, whether, okay, maybe they've tried it and that wasn't right for them, or they're just like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. For various reasons, like trauma history or lack of access. You know, maybe you like to try that, but you don't have a pelvic floor therapist anywhere near the small town you live in. So these are oftentimes the women who find us because, you know, nothing's the right fit for everyone, right? And the beauty in that is that there are options now. And Jen and I have found that we've been able to successfully help women recover from pelvic floor dysfunction and prolapse without having to stick anything up there. And for many women, that is an appealing option.
Yeah, it's definitely, I can see how it would be a lot for some women, you know, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this or ask my partner to do this. And like, yeah, I'm so uncomfortable. And then when you're super pregnant too, the last thing you kind of want to do is like be sticking things up there and you can't reach. So someone has to help you. And it's like, you know, you're just like, don't want to be touched. And like, I totally get that.
And it comes back to knowing yourself. Really, when you're choosing what option to take care of this very tender private area feels aligned for each woman. And we are all about women tuning inward and, you know, choosing what does feel right for you. And if that's seeing someone in person because you're like, I'm that type of person, this is what I need, by all means. And then if you're like, I don't have access to that, or I'm not doing it, I'm not interested in that, I'd like to take care of this from the comfort of my own home, then there's options for that too, which is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the access is a big issue for a lot of people. I have found it very helpful to see somebody in person, but again, I have access to them, and because they do an assessment and they, you know, can like personally take a look at what's going on. And then from there, I really like the stretches that I've been doing during postpartum to support my pelvic health. And that's kind of what I'm into now versus Kegels. I found with Kegels, even during pregnancy, when I was recommended them, I never stuck to it. And it was always like, do 3 sets of 20 every day or something. I don't know what it was, but I would never remember to do it. Whereas these certain stretches that you can do to loosen the pelvic floor, I just add that to the end of my workout and I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of worked for me. Yeah.
And that much better resembles the approach that we teach as well, that we did our research on. It is much more comprehensive from the standpoint of there are built-in assessments that tell you where you're starting from. And then we give you tools that help you bring relief to the areas first before you add strength. Because as you said before, if you're just squeezing and doing bracing type of squeezing like Kegels, it often, it's actually probably for the best that you didn't follow through on that, because it often causes over tightening. Like you said, we don't want the over tight or the hypertonic muscle, because then that just lapses you back into worse symptoms again, because an over tight muscle is also a weak muscle functionally. The fibers can't connect the way they're meant to when they're functioning well if it's over tight. Yeah. So it does need to be a well-rounded approach to take care of the pelvic floor. And that's definitely exactly what we walk women through. One of our absolute favorite techniques, I actually had a woman contact me this morning to tell me that her hips had gone out of alignment. And number one, her first win was that she felt it, right? So part of this journey is tuning in and feeling what's right, what's wrong. How do I feel down there? Because sometimes that's the first step that's a little scary for some women. So number one, her first win was, I felt that. Number two, her win was, and I had a tool thanks to this program that helped me adjust myself in my own home. And so that's one of our favorite freebies also that everyone can access. It's a decompression position you do at home. I like to call it active rest, because you are decompressing your back, your hips, your pelvis, and your nervous system all at once. So as you said before, the stretching can be one of the most therapeutic components. And then the strength that you do add needs to be functional movement based. It's not going to build optimal strength if we keep it a conscious activity, right? Our pelvic floor it didn't require a conscious squeezing before it was injured. So it shouldn't require one afterwards. So it is the ultimate biohack to figure out, how do I strengthen these muscles in a way that lets them work the way they did before they were hurt, instead of, oh, let me think about this muscle and squeeze it. Because that's not how it worked before. So ideally, you do want to find that combination of decompressing, stretching, relaxing the muscle, and adding functional strength, which is not optimized with just like a Kegel or a squeeze, relax. So it sounds like you are in excellent hands. That's the other thing we've learned too, is that different, as with physicians or lawyers or any other practice, the quality of care women receive, even in person, varies a great deal. And it varies by country and by region of the country. So if you are listening to this and you're in the care of a pelvic floor therapist and they're doing all of this, then you're receiving excellent care. But a lot of women come to us and say, I tried pelvic floor therapy and the only thing they told me to do was Kegels and it didn't help. And so that woman was not well served by that therapist and is looking for other options. So it is about trusting your intuition and listening to your body to find the right fit for treatment, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're spot on. And not every practitioner is the same. Like, I've seen a couple different ones, and yeah, it's really hit and miss. Sometimes you have to find somebody who you're super comfortable with as well, because it's such an intimate thing. And I've really found for postpartum and pelvic health, when I started exercising again beyond just walking, that was really when I started to see improvements in my pelvic floor. I did like a 12-week postpartum workout program, and it was super gentle. Like, I started it at 6 weeks, and the first month was basically like, 360 breathing and like just all of these very gentle things that I was doing. And after the time went on and you start like lifting some weights and you start like being able to squat again and that type of thing, that is what I found really moved the needle for like closing my diastasis. Oh my gosh.
No, you got it, girl. It depends on who you ask how you pronounce it for that one.
Yeah, exactly. But I was really surprised at how much better I felt once I was actually up and exercising, stretching, and strength training again.
Yes. And look, momming is an extreme sport, right? The baby is getting bigger and stronger. And if you are not getting stronger in your recovery also, that baby's strength is going to outpace you. And then you're really going to be up a creek, and then the symptoms are going to get worse. So you have taken exactly the right approach to be so proactive about this, because you're not going to suffer those things getting worse and worse down the line because you didn't take action early, because you are taking action early. And I applaud that 1,000 times over, because that's going to serve you so well as you move forward. It's going to pay dividends.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Something when I was reading through your work and what you do is you talk about breastfeeding and the ergonomics of breastfeeding and linking it to pelvic floor health. And I find this so interesting because I never thought about how those two could be connected ever until this time with you. So how do those connect? Like, how does breastfeeding impact the health of our pelvic floor?
Absolutely. Okay. So you're going to totally relate to all this because you're living it. It is a current thing happening. Well, number one, certainly, especially in early breastfeeding, when we bring the baby home and we've just given birth, I don't care how the baby came out. It's a lot for our bodies, right? And we are in a weakened state. And I always say this, like, I think before I had kids, I would imagine, sit there and hold this tiny 6 to 9 pound baby. And it doesn't sound very strenuous. It's like, oh, I could do that before I had kids, right? And knew what it felt like to be in a postpartum body. But your core is incredibly weakened. And the muscles that we use to sit up straight and hold that baby are stretched to oblivion. They are not working well. And so what we're doing very often, if we're not supporting our bodies well and ergonomically in that early breastfeeding, especially, is we're rounding, and all of that downward pressure impacts the pelvic floor. And so what we want to do is give our bodies that gift of proper support. And so that means like putting pillows all over the house, making sure your back is supported with a nice tall, long ways pillow, so that you're not asking so much of your core and pelvic floor for up and in support that it cannot provide yet. And so we're giving that kindness to our bodies of the support of the props, and just have them all over the house. Like, I know I kind of, before I had my first baby, I set up my little perfect breastfeeding station. And then I brought the baby home and I realized I was breastfeeding all over the house because it's not just one place that you're breastfeeding. And so have the extra pillows everywhere. You want one behind your back. And then you want to make sure that it's not just a boppy that you're using. You've got to prop that elbow up with additional pillows so that you're bringing the baby up to breast instead of accidentally finding yourself bringing the breast down to the baby, because then there's that forward hunching and rounding, and all that pressure is going down to the pelvic floor with that posture. And it's not doing any favors for your core if you're recovering from a DR. So it's really about gentleness to your body with props and supports that, before having a baby, you never would have needed to sit in this posture for 20 minutes or 40 minutes. And then the last piece is making sure that your feet are propped up. So if you're sitting in a chair and your feet are dangling, or if you're in a rocker, that is all pulling on your low back and pulling on your pelvic floor, because your hips and your pelvic floor share attachments. So these are just simple ways to be kind to your body in this vulnerable state that is this precious also. It's an amazing, precious state, but it is also a vulnerable one. So, and you can, a lot of husbands wish they could do more in this stage, right? Only if you choose to breastfeed, that's something only mom can do. So you can task your husband with, hey, honey, if I'm breastfeeding, can you look over and see if I've got all my pillows? In addition to bringing you your water and your snacks, he can make sure you've got your proper support so that your posture is supported and you're not accidentally causing damage because you're focused on so much. Is the latch okay? Are we getting transfer? That's where your priorities are. Let your husband help you with taking care of you.
I find it interesting you talk about not having your feet on the floor, because actually that's not something I've thought about.
Well, it depends on the height of the chair, right? I mean,
yeah.
It does.
Totally. So I have a chair in our nursery. And what I typically do now, because my baby's bigger, so it's much easier actually when the baby gets bigger.
Yes. Postural control.
Oh my gosh. In the beginning, you should have seen me. I had a pillow. I think I had 3 pillows, like one for him, one for each elbow, one behind me. Like it was like a whole setup every single time.
Yes. And you were being smart about it, girl.
Yeah. And then when they get bigger, it's nice because then they, like you're able to kind of support them because they're bigger. They can kind of like lie on your lap a bit easier versus like having all these pillows. Anyway, so the way that I breastfeed now is I use both breasts, and the breast that he has his head on, I actually bring up my leg and I make like a figure 4. So I cross that leg over my leg that's straight. And then that props him up closer to my body. because like my thigh pushes him up, and then I feed him and his head rests on the inside of my elbow, and then I switch to the other side. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't get any pain from it, and I'm able to just like breastfeed without needing all these extra pillows, but I don't know what you think about that.
I think that's wonderful. And the only reason that would be problematic is what you've already zeroed in on, that some women who maybe haven't been as proactive about rehabilitating their core through this, especially initial phase, might find that sitting in that position causes like pinching or compression at the hip, or maybe when they stand up, their back feels really tight. But it sounds like you have regained enough core strength that you can tolerate that position and not find any ill effects from it. So, if a woman wants to try that and she gets up with a stiff front of her hip or a stiff low back, pop down on the floor and do some cat cows, do a child's pose, just to loosen that up. But that is a wonderful option, under the circumstances, like you said, that you're not feeling any worse for the wear after it.
Yeah, I really do like that. But mostly I do it in the rocking chair. And I think what is really important, and I was also thinking about this the other day, is the rocking chair that I got, I was very picky on from an ergonomic standpoint, because I am tall and I knew it had to be tall enough to be able to support my back, like long enough in the back, because so many of them are actually quite short. And I would, lean back and like my head would dangle, like it wouldn't actually support my neck.
Oh yeah, that's no good. It makes me think of kind of the older wicker rocking chairs have the nice tall back.
Yeah, that's actually what you need. Yeah. And then you have to sit there, and then I also have long arms, right? So like, where does the elbow fall? Like all of these things you have to think about.
Yes, like how wide is the chair?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I like to breastfeed the best. And I find my posture is the best is in that chair. I'll do it everywhere though, like the bed, the couch, that type of thing. But the chairs are really designed for breastfeeding, right? So it makes sense that, people splurge and get a good one, in my opinion. At least we did anyway.
We did the exact same thing. That was like the one gift. I was like, all right, my in-laws wanted to get us something nice. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to get. It's the chair. We did the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's just so interesting how it's all connected. I have a friend who has a 9-month-old baby, and I saw her the other day, and she's still breastfeeding, and she is so round in her shoulders.
Yes. And look, and you know what that does? And that sets you up for a rotator cuff injury, because your posture gets kind of fixed that way. And then you're driving and the passy falls out of the baby's mouth in the back seat, and you go to reach back and you don't have that range of motion anymore. So something snaps. I mean, I've seen this in so many women. It's the reaching in the back seat shoulder injury. But if you don't have that rounding to begin with, you're much less likely to end up with a shoulder injury later. Yeah. And all of that rounding does add downward pressure also. So your awareness of all of this is on point. I mean, and it does matter for the long term.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I also just like aesthetically, I don't want the neck hump. Yeah.
No, not the neck hump. Not the neck hump. Not the neck hump. And something you can do to help that is all this positioning. It does matter, and getting that core strength back, because our posture is supported from the core up. It absolutely is. And what you find if you're not strengthening the core is maybe you don't have any of these quote unquote symptoms that we talked about of pelvic floor dysfunction, but maybe you find that you just don't tolerate standing well anymore, because you don't have that ground up support from your core and pelvic floor, that even just standing for 30 minutes, your back hurts, or, you just can't, you got to sit. So every woman describes the sensation differently, but in the end, what's really behind all of that is just core and pelvic floor weakness. And it happens to all of us who have a baby. So yes, we can give ourselves that gift of rehabilitating that in whatever, method or technique or option feels aligned for us. And it pays off so big in the long term.
Yeah, it really does. And what's interesting about my friend who has this round back issue is she's dealing with a lot of pee leakage during sex. And she told me, she's like, I actually just don't want to have sex because I'm so embarrassed by it. And so now it's so interesting thinking about all of this, because you really can connect the dots of like not supporting your body and like going inward and humping over your shoulders, and then, not supporting your core, which then relates to supporting your pelvic floor. And it's all just related, really.
Absolutely. Yes. I remember one continuing education course I took that the woman had something absolutely mind blowing to share that I've never forgotten. And she said, when it comes to the connection of the connective tissue lines of fascia in the body, that the bladder actually hangs from the neck. Like mind blowing, right? It was a light bulb moment because, like you said, you can see it in someone's body when you really look. Like it's a chain. One thing does connect to the other. But the good news is, especially when you start at your center of gravity, that strength then like translates up and out because you're supporting yourself from your center. I mean, it's so powerful. I mean, emotionally powerful, especially if your marriage is being impacted by symptoms like that. You've got to heal it. There's no other option at that point. That's one of the breaking points that many women find us at is this is now impacting my marriage. I decided I was going to live with it because, it was just inconveniencing me, but now it's a problem for us and I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we all kind of get to that point where we notice it and we want to do something about it. I remember I was, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know, 2 months, maybe 2.5 months postpartum. And I took a photo at a wedding that we were at. And this just happened like in September. And I saw my shoulders start to round. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, absolutely not. This is not happening. Right. And then, now I can work out more. And I think they've like reset because I don't see it as much anymore.
I'm sure they have. And anybody who's listening, if you want a quick cheat, that at-home decompression position we offer is great for this too. It resets your whole spine. So there really are simple things that matter that can help.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what I just want to really point out is like, even if you are experiencing the humped neck, you can correct that.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that the sooner the better. It doesn't mean that you have to have that for the rest of your life. Like that is something that can go back and be pushed back into the proper space that it's supposed to be in.
Yes, especially when you start from your center and move outward. It can be tricky if you've got rounding in the mid back and you try to just straighten your neck, then it's just going to get more creased and pressed at the base of your skull. But if you start from your center and you work your way up and out, that powerful upright posture can absolutely be restored. And you're going to look at that picture again and be like, oh, there I am. There's me.
Yeah, exactly. It just takes time, right? Like anything with postpartum and healing, it takes time and consistency of showing up, doing the stretching, doing your program, whatever it is, because you can't just do one thing one day and expect it to be fixed.
Yes. And this aligns so well with all of, especially these last few episodes I've listened to with all your other guests. It's about small changes over time. And that is holistic health. That is biohacking. It's small, consistent changes over time leading to those positive changes that we seek. And it's not by anything that's pills or surgery, because that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want to end up in the system that's only about sick care. We want to keep ourselves out of that and well for the long term, for our families, for ourselves. And the good news is it's possible.
Exactly. It totally is. So if people want to work with you or women and they say, yeah, I really don't want to feel the way I feel anymore or look the way I look in terms of these posture and pelvic floor issues we're talking about, where can they do that? And how can they kind of get some support?
Absolutely. Okay. Everybody listening, if you're like, is this me? I don't know. Is it really that bad? Take our 5-minute quiz. We have it everywhere on our Instagram, our website. It's all Tighten Your Tinkler. And that 5-minute quiz is just a sum of the research questionnaires that we measured women's progress with. So what I love about this so much is that it is data-based, and I can tell you with certainty, based on your score on this quiz, here's what I recommend for you to do next to get the best help for where you are right now. And it matters so much to me that I can say that to women, because if you score a certain range, we're going to recommend in-person care, or we're going to refer you to providers. And we've got a list of those. If you score in a certain range, we're going to say, look, you're going to feel better in 30 days. And we can promise you that. We know that if you take these steps. So not only does that 5-minute quiz, we call it our root cause quiz, because it It quickly helps you like see for yourself how connected so many issues are you might be experiencing, which other providers might splice into separate buckets. You know, in the Western medical, say, oh, this is that issue and that's this issue. No, it's all core and pelvic floor dysfunction. And the good news about that is that it can all be remedied at once with the right care. We just give our body that little gentle nudge to go in the direction of healing that we know it's always trying to go for us, right? Our bodies are always trying to help us. So start with that 5-minute quiz. And of course, you can email us, hello@tightenyourtinkler.com. You can check out our website. Our YouTube channel, also Tighten Your Tinkler, has hundreds of teaching videos. And that's where it's amazing. It's such a public platform, but women pour their hearts out in the comments under those videos because for the first time, many of them feel seen and heard. And that is what we want for every woman navigating these personal issues, to feel seen, to feel heard, validated, and to know that there's help and hope.
I love that. I want to do that quiz. That sounds really good. And I'm so curious to see what I score at. You know, I'm 5 months postpartum. So yeah, I'm curious what that would look like, but I will link that in the show notes. Absolutely. And I will put that on my website because I think a lot of women really do need support like this. And so many women suffer in silence, and it really doesn't have to be that way.
Yes. And look, just for your listeners, that code, there's code biohacking. Brittany will get $50 off for that program if you decide that you feel called that solution is the right one for you.
Amazing. That's so great of you guys. Thank you so much. And I will definitely link that and, you know, give everyone the info as well so they have that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Christina. This has been so enlightening, and I just love all of the information and insights that you shared.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I love all the information that you are sharing for women every day.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.